And guys, that's the cue for you that the webinar is being recorded. In case if you cannot stay for the entirety of the webinar today, don't worry. You're going to get the recording tomorrow at about the same time that the webinar ends today. So check your inbox tomorrow. It is going to be in the same email inbox that you used to register for today's session. Also, besides this, in the Zoom interface, you can see the Q&A button. So in case if you run into any questions during the session that you would like our team to address and answer and provide you with more details, please be welcome to put those questions into Q&A. And we're going to dedicate about 15 minutes at the end of the session to address all of your questions so that none of them are left without answers. Okay. With that said, let me do a quick round of introductions. We are going to be your host for today. I'm just an MC here, really, but my name is Ilya. I'm a customer success manager here on the Qase side. But your main hosts for the session are going to be Nikita Fedorov, who's the founder and the CEO of Qase, and Glen Holmes, who's the VP of product here at Qase. Glen, Nikita, any quick intros from you?
Yeah, let me start. So, hi everyone. I'm really excited to welcome you all to our webinar dedicated to AIDEN. My name is Nikita. I'm Qase CEO and founder. I'm a developer myself and the person who started Qase as a personal side project. What began with as a small idea that has grown into a global company with thousands of customers across more than 100 countries. Back then, I was working as an engineering manager and I couldn't find a test management solution that truly met my needs. So I've decided to build one by myself. And the first version of Qase focused purely on manual testing. Over the time, we have expanded it to bring manual and automated testing together, giving teams more complete visibility into their product quality. Last year, we started thinking about how we can bring even more value to our customers using AI. That's how AIDEN was born, a suite of AI agents designed to empower our users and make their lives easier. Now, I'd like to hand it over to our VP of Product, Glen Holmes, who will walk you through what AIDEN can do and what's coming next.
Thanks, Nikita. I can bring you to the agenda. Okay, so you've heard from Nikita about how Qase started, its origins, and the problems we want to solve and how we want to help our customers. I'm going to talk about how we're doing that via AIDEN, our new what we believe is the future of QA, our new AI product. I'm going to then give you a demo, so not just talk about what we're doing, but actually show you what we're doing. I'll talk a little bit about what's coming next in AIDEN, and then we'll open the floor to questions. So, feel free as you go along to, put your questions in the chat, and then also at the end we'll open it up. And very, very happy to answer you any question, even if it's not about AIDEN or just about QA in general, where we're going. We're happy to help you with that. Okay, so I just want to give you some context first around why we particularly focused on the problems that AIDEN solve. And by listening to our customers and understanding them, we knew what we needed to develop to solve those problems. So we all know, kind of those familiar with QA, I know some people said they're new to QA, which is great. So you'll have come across, or you will come across, the kind of the orange triangle, what we call it QA, which is kind of consists of coverage, time to market, test coverage, time to market, and quality itself. And it's an orange triangle because when you try to adjust any of those in any order, it impacts the others. And it's very kind of structural, right? It's very, very kind of symbiotic in that you mess with one, another one gets affected. So if you try to increase coverage, for instance, obviously you do increase coverage, but it can slow down your time to market because you're trying to test every single part of your application, every single nook and cranny. And it may not always improve your quality because, increasing coverage just means you're writing test cases for every single area, not focusing on writing better test cases. Okay. If you want to speed up your time to market, you want to that's what we all want to do, ship software faster. That's our mission, to help our customers ship quality software faster. Okay. But if we want to do that, it often means that you compromise on quality because you don't quite test your product enough. You want to just get it out to market, right? And then you certainly don't care about coverage. You just want to test what you're releasing, and there's parts of your product that probably needs to be tested or needs better quality assurance. But you know, you just really want to focus on getting your product out there, and you want to focus on higher quality. Okay, that means that it slows down your time to market because you're really purist about your quality. You want to write the best test cases. You want to write every single type of test case, you know, from, you know, testing the feature, negative test cases, alternative paths, all of those type of things that improve your quality, but ultimately can slow you down to market. So that's kind of existed. And what we want to do is kind of break that orange triangle. That's our goal. So there's a number of problems that we found our customers have. And one of the things is what we call a manual test problem and crossing into automation. So transitioning from a manual testing organization to an automated organization. So many of our customers tell us we really want to get there. And we looked at this and how our customers mature along the what we call the Qase QA maturity model. So there's multiple stages to this, but if you're a stage 1 company, you're generally a startup, small company, and your customers are your testers, right? So you just launch your software, you get bugs happen, you fix them really quickly, and you get it out to market, and it's scrappy, okay? And quality isn't really, you know, a strong kind of part of your software development lifecycle, they say, right? In fact, you kind of just ignore it slightly. Then we get to stage 2 where you're starting to bring in quality practices into your organization. So you care about quality. You probably have acquired a test management system, and quality is part of your software development lifecycle, right? It's a part where you do agile, waterfall, whatever methodology. It's an endemic part of it. And then stage 3 is where we see people really kind of becoming mature around the manual testing and then starting to try out automation. You know, there may be automation, someone to test for regression purposes, but writing manual test cases for a new software that you're releasing. And what we call that crossing the chasm, because it's really difficult to go from stage 2 to stage 3, right? This is where we see customers fail and customers having great difficulty in crossing that. And there's multiple reasons, because you think of people generally who've been doing manual testing for a long time have a lack of automated test skills. It's just not something you ever thought about. It's not a skill set that's within the company. And it costs a lot to acquire those skills. So you've got to pay automated testers who, you know, can have quite big salaries in other cases. So then your option is, well, let's take our manual testers and upskill them. And it can be, not always, but it can be very, very difficult I should say, skill sets. Manual testers can be subject matter experts or know your product inside out, very focused on, you know, a process of testing every single variant of the product, and really focused on, you know, finding those bugs and getting that quality. Automated testers tend to write code to automate it and do it, okay? And then lastly, you've got your infrastructure requirements, and it can be incredibly costly to set up your own CI/CD environment, your own observability, your own DevOps, all of these kind of functions around automation that are required in order to, you know, I suppose, effectively run an automation type testing environment. So this is where we see people falling or failing in that and falling into that chasm, because it's so hard to go from stage 2 to stage 3. There's also the automation test problem. So if we've any automation test engineers, I'm sure we have on this call, they'll probably nod their heads when I say you're overwhelmed with the amount of tests that you have to write. I've never heard anybody say, no, I've loads of time to write tests. It seems to be like finger in the dam. You're writing tests, and as you write a test, you realize there's 4 new tests that you've got to write, and you write another one, and there's another 5 tests you've got to write. So you're always kind of swimming against that tide. And that kind of, you've got to maintain your current ones and write new tests. And that manifests in a number of issues. One is you're overworked, right? You're just overwhelmed. And that can cause compromise with quality. So you're just trying to write the test case. You're not thinking of all those different variables. You're just getting a test case, automated, and making sure that the happy path, say, works. And that can increase the flakiness of your product, right? So even your environments and all need to be maintained. So sometimes environments fail, you get a flaky test. Sometimes it's a test itself. So you start getting problems with your automation. And that ultimately means you need to hire more automation engineers or infrastructure engineers or test ops, increasing the cost. So there's problems for customers who are manual testers want to go to automation, and for customers who are fully automated. They all kind of find that these problems exist, and that orange triangle exists for everyone. So the solution that we've kind of thought about, you know, from multiple conversations with customers, from many research that we came across, was AIDEN. And, you know, with the advent and the kind of ubiquity of AI and LLMs, we thought this is ample. This is a core technology that can help us to solve this problem. So AIDEN essentially replicates a QA team. So it replicates a manual tester, a test analyst, an automation expert, an automation engineer, QA architects, test operations, all of those. And enables you to do a number of things across that quality lifecycle. Okay, so it can convert a manual test into an automated test. Okay, take your manual tests, convert them directly into automated in a few clicks. And again, I'm going to show you how this is done in a moment. You can generate tests directly from requirements. So taking a product manager's requirements, or business analyst, or whoever writes your requirements, and actually directly creating tests from that. It allows you to execute those tests at scale without having to acquire any infrastructure. You can do it on our test cloud, okay? And it allows you to gain deep insights into the efficiency of those tests and failures, etc. So no coding, no infrastructure, no hassle. That's a tagline we want for AIDEN. So AIDEN tends to go along this life cycle we call from requirement to manual test to automated test execution in that number of clicks. That simply. Okay. So I'm going to go through the kind of different agents or different kind of modules of AIDEN. So we have what we call in our QA architect. There's our main kind of module, and we have a manual tester. So essentially that allows you to generate manual tests directly by inputting product requirements. So you can take a product requirement and write it. Again, I'll show you this in a moment. Or you can integrate with common requirements tools such as Jira and GitHub. And it will generate those manual tests instantly, and allows you to either review or refine those tests. You can, you know, see if they're appropriate, if they have actually produced the correct test, modify them, update them, etc. So think about that. Think about get a requirement, and you have to think of all of the test case you have to write for it. AIDEN goes from requirement to manual tests, say instantly, saving you hours of tests, right? And it gives you a kind of a really good start on coverage, on basically ensuring that all your requirements are covered. And again, I'll show you that in a moment how it does that. Our test advisor. So our test advisor basically at the moment, and we're adding a lot more capabilities to this, which I will talk about later. But our test advisor essentially acts as an automation expert. Okay, so imagine you had 1,000 test cases in your repository, and you want to know which ones are, you know, easy to automate initially. And you have to get somebody in to review those 1,000 test cases. That takes a long time. Advisor can do that instantly. So we can tell you what test cases, are easy to automate. Some test cases aren't so easy to automate, and it tells you why they're not and what you need to do to make them easy. So it gives you all that advice about it, going from manual to automated. And then it tells you the ones that are easy, just go ahead and automate. Again, I'll show you that in a moment. So it saves hours. Can you imagine, instead of analyzing 1,000 test cases manually, imagine doing this by basically you know, in an instant, and having multiple agents or experts analyzing your repository. Our automated test designer. So you can create or generate manual test case in AIDEN. We talked about that, and AIDEN can automatically convert them to automated tests. Automatically, just click of a button, no coding knowledge required. It helps you do that, does it step by step, ensuring accuracy and efficiency. It actually executes as it's writing the test. It continuously executes it to make sure it's working. And then you can take those tests and you can execute them immediately in our test cloud. Again, no infrastructure required. So it goes from manual to automated in seconds. No zero coding required. And then our automated test engineer, which we have, again, the case where we've got automated testers who are running their own automated tests in their own CI/CD. You can take manual tests or take current tests, convert them. You can use natural language to write an automated test, and you can export that code in any framework you like. So if it's Playwright, you know, C#, Selenium, whatever, and you can execute that in your own CI/CD, and you can pass those results back into Qase. So you're not restricted to execute in our cloud. You can use your own infrastructure if you've already got it. So basically what we allow is effortless test execution. So our test cloud, when you use it, allows you to execute your tests It uses AI to basically execute them at maximum speed, optimizes it. It supports multiple OS and browsers, and we have a pay-as-you-go model. So you only pay for the test that you convert. So you can convert a test and execute it 1,000,000 times. You just pay for with a single conversion. So no infrastructure headaches, execute and scale seamlessly. And that's really what AIDEN does. So rather than me just talk about it now for a moment, and I know you have a number of questions there, I'm going to go and show you how AIDEN works. So just interested in, I say, how many people actually here use Qase or Qase customers. I'll be interested to know, because this is our interface. For those of you, I'm sure, who use Qase, obviously it's familiar, but for those who don't use Qase, it's a pretty standard structure. It's very intuitive, very easy to understand once you know, like you know anything about testing. So this is your repository, essentially where your library of test cases, right, where your test cases exist. Now, what I want to do is start with saying, okay, I've got requirements for my product manager. Now I need to create test cases. So how do I do that using AIDEN? So we can generate a manual test. So what I'm going to do, you can do 2 ways here. Okay, you can copy and paste. So if you've got a requirement in a Word doc, or many requirements in a Word doc, might be on a wiki, you want to copy and paste it in here, you can copy and paste and generate. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to use our integration. So I'm going to integrate with Jira, which is our what we use for our requirements. And I'm going to search for anything just for the sake of this on our AIDEN webinar. Now you'll see it's brought back a number of user stories. So these exist within requirements, essentially within Jira. So I'm going to take this one. It's a login. It's actually just searching for Wikipedia. Simple test case. It's using Google to search for Wikipedia. I'm going to generate some test cases from that. Now, what this is doing at the moment, this is going off, and it's not simply, okay, taking a requirement and writing a test case for it. What it's doing, it's thinking like a really experienced manual tester would think. And what I mean by that is it's going to create a test, right, that validates the requirement, but it's going to think of alternative paths, and it's going to think of tests that it should write to cover this requirement. So for instance, right, so it's gone and generated a number of tests from here. So the simple one is successfully search and navigate to Wikipedia via Google search, right? So that's just what it has in the requirement. Navigate to Google, enter Wikipedia, click on Wikipedia. But it's going to say, search for Wikipedia using different casing, leading and trading spaces. What about if it's got a typo? No internet connection during search. So it starts to think of all these alternative paths that you might need to test for in order to fully validate that this requirement is actually valuable. So again, think of that like a lot of people do mind mapping for this, right? So this really kind of helps you along that way. So what you can do here is you can kind of validate like what's in. Okay, that looks like a good test case. Some of them may look disconnect from the internet, enter Wikipedia. That's a bit bland and needs a better test. But for these purposes, what I'm going to do is select a number of these. Okay, now I could automate these straight away. I could convert these to an automated test without even going to manual. But I don't want to do that just yet. And the reason being is that automating test cases, it uses AI, it uses credits. Okay, so some test cases are easier to automate than others. Some have no context. No matter how good your model is, it just doesn't understand. Click on a button, it's not going to be able to automate that, right? So rather than go ahead and try to use up some of my credits, what I'm going to do is I'm going to save them to my repository, because I want them as manual tests too, or I want to save these as manual tests. So I'm going to save them to my repository. So that's saved those, and I'm going to go back to my repository. And you'll see there's a number of tests here. Now, this little hand indicates they've been generated. They're manual tests generated by AI. Okay. So what I want to do now is I want to find out which one of these is easy to convert. Okay. Now, instead of going through them all and multiple ones, I'm going to just ask Advisor to do this. Okay. So I'm going to take something like, I'm going to do search Wikipedia for different cases, and I'm going to run Advisor. Now, what this does is this will say, might take a bit of time, but it goes off and it analyzes the test case and sees if it's suitable for automation, right? And it will give me feedback on how that happens, okay? And the feedback is really important. I'm going to show you why that's really important in a moment. So for instance, that should take a moment. It should take pretty short amount of time to do. But I'm going to look at one. You've got to see some that are green. So if you go in here, it'll say this test is easy to automate with AI. Right, so just gives me, and I've got some that are red. Now it's come back and said that this is red. Okay, so why is it? Test is harder to automate with AI, cross-domain navigation. So please ensure the test case is not required to navigate between different domains. So it's not telling me I can't, it's just telling me it might be difficult. And I might say, okay, well, it's just going to Google and then click it in Wikipedia. It's not really cross-domain, it's fine, it'll work. I'm going to take this one as well, for example. And I'm going to say, this test case is harder to automate with AI. Please ensure the test case is not required to upload or download any files. And I can see that in step 4, it says CSV file contained is downloaded. And I'm going, well, my automated test, I don't really care about the content of the file. I just want to know that it works, that when I click on that, on the export, the CSV button, that it actually, it instigates an export. So I say, well, maybe I can automate that. And that's important because I'm going to come back in a moment and go back to that. But what I can try to do as well is if I turn around and I talked about earlier about the 1,000 test cases in my repository, and imagine having somebody having to analyze all them. I can simply select as many as I like here, all of them, some of them, and I can run advisor on those. And advisor goes off and you'll see it's analyzing them now. You do that across multiple cases and it'll give me that feedback, what's easy to convert, what's not. But I'm going to come back and I'm going to go to this test case because I want to convert this. I really want to automate this, right? I want to make this an automated test case. And this is essentially a tool called Craft. It's used for product requirements and or product road mapping. And what I want to do is test exporting objectives and key results. Okay, so I've got the test there. So I'm going to automate this, even though advisor told me, because it's given me some advice on why it might fail. And that allows me to actually do something. That allows me to edit the test case for automation before it's automated. And I'll talk about that in a moment. So I'm going to choose my environment. I'm going to choose the URL, and I set these up. You'll see on the left-hand side here, environments and authorization settings. So because this is a tool I need to log into, I'm going to use my authorization settings that I've set up within the tool. I don't care about prerequisites for this one, and I'm just going to automate. So what this does, this brings me into AIDEN. Now this can take a moment to kick off. So what it's doing now is it's going and it's analyzing the test case that I have, that I've set up, or that I've, tried to automate. And it's going to start building steps for each basically test step, as you want to say, along the process. So what it does is it automates a step and tries to execute it. So here we've got 12 steps. Now remember, I don't want the last one. It's going to fail because it's checked that the CSV file is downloaded. So that's on an operating system somewhere. I have to navigate to it and I have to search. So I don't really care about that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause this for a moment because this allows me, it's filled out the steps that it needs to automate, but it gives me the opportunity to edit these. So I can edit these enumerates. I can drag and move these steps if they're in different order that I want to run. I can add a step above if I want to add a step to this. I can add a step below. And it allows me to generate random data. So for instance, say in the Wikipedia search test case I had, I could say instead of Wikipedia, just enter any random piece of data or go to Wikipedia and search for any random article. So I can generate that random data and it will just generate any sort of data and then perform the action for me. So it allows me to do all of these things, but I'm going to delete this step, and to make this a little bit quicker, I'm going to delete some steps like the check steps. So the check just allows you to verify that a screen has loaded. But for the sake of this demo, I'm going to delete these to make it a little bit quicker. Okay, and now I'm going to do that. And I can also edit. I can do one thing, actually, one more thing. I can edit the steps either, as I say, using this, okay, or I can edit the actual JSON. So I can go in here and say that, I click the actions button. It's not called actions. Actually, it's called, create. So I can click the create button and I can just edit that easily in JSON as well if people are more, comfortable with that. But again, no coding required. I'm just going to execute this. Now this is going to execute all of these steps. Okay. Now this can take a moment, so I'm not going to wait for too long for this to happen. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how these are actually executed. How we execute an automated test, because like every good demo, I have prepared some earlier that I've and I'll come back to this and show you this when it's finished. But for now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go along and I'm going to come to our test runs. So our test run allows us to start, if anyone's familiar with Qase or anyone's familiar with any testing, executing a test run, right? You put your test cases in and you start your test run. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to run a test. I'm going to execute this test on our cloud. Okay. So this is our own essentially CI/CD, and this is going to call it AIDEN webinar. Now, the environment I want to use, I'm going to do some tests on our own product that I have. So I'm going to use this one. And for the sake of it, I'm just going to do it on Chromium, not on WebKit, because I'll just do a single parameter test. Linux on desktop, etc. I'm going to select the test cases that I want to run. So I'm going to add a filter here. I'm going to look at AI automated and go through, and I'll see all of the tests. You'll see this little icon. It's in the repository too. That says it's being automated using the AI. I'm going to go into this one and I'm going to just execute these two tests. Sorry, I need to, my menu is, yep. And I'm going to go to done. Now, I can run that now. I can schedule a run. So I can say, I've got a bunch of automated tests and I want to just run these. Like a lot of automated tests are every day, multiple times a day, every day, whenever I want. And I can come along and say, okay, at 1 o'clock every day, execute this test. I can do that if I like. Now, in this case, for demo purposes, I'm just going to start the run immediately. So I'm going to execute that run. Now that's going off to execute. And that is essentially taking a previously manual test case that I have converted to automated and is now executing that for me. Okay, so I haven't used, there's no coding required, I don't know any automation skills. I just simply converted a manual test case and I'm now executing it on our infrastructure. Didn't have to set up any infrastructure. That's going to start now. I'll come back to that in a moment. But what's interesting here, I was editing that, automating that test case, you might remember, and I went off to execute a test run. So when you go and convert a test case from manual to automated, you can do that and essentially it will give me an update here. Now it's actually already converted because you might have seen something a moment ago that this was spinning because it was in progress. It's now completed. So it went up and did that and it successfully converted this. And what I can do is I can go along and look at each step. So the first step here was signing into this craft.io. My second one entered an email, put in the password. Then it went into click the login button and it brought me to the default page. Now I can navigate here or I can do this. It looked at, click the strategy menu. Okay. It looked at, click the objectives and key results one, which is, you can see up there. Then clicked on the objective and key results plate. It clicked the actions button, which is here. And then it clicked the export to CSV option. And I can also view a video of that. So you'll see it happening. And that is essentially going from a simple requirement that's export an objective and key results in that to from manual to automation in, as you say, really quickly on a demo, simply no coding required. Now, what I can also do is I can execute that. I showed you executing that on our framework. Or on our test cloud, I should say, sorry. I can also, if you've got your own CI/CD, you can select this value. You can choose from a number of different options here, and we're adding to these all the time. So we've got JavaScript, Playwright, Cypress, Cucumber, TypeScript, Playwright, Cypress, Python, Selenium, etc. So I'm going to use that. And what it will do is it will take a moment to go off and generate this. Now, this actually sometimes takes a moment to generate it, depending on the size of the test. But essentially what this does now is it will generate Playwright code for you to copy or for you to download and execute that on your own infrastructure, if that makes sense. So again, options you have, execute on our cloud. And remember, you don't consume any credits or any cost for executing on our infrastructure, or you can download it and execute it on your own infrastructure. And the only charge you get is for converting the test case, as we've done. Sorry, this is like this. everything was working well until now, and it's taking a bit longer, but I don't want to keep you on this call. Trust me, this works every time. Just sometimes takes a little longer, and I'm just conscious of keeping everybody on a call while we download JavaScript code. We'll give it a moment. It's not breaking. Oh, okay. You'll have to trust me on that. I'll find another one that we've got. But essentially then, so that's executing our test cloud. That's creating the automated test case. So I'll go back to, remember I analyzed a number of cases. One is Amber, actually. So Amber is a test case that this is a strong potential for automation. So please provide specific URLs to navigate to. So for clickable UI elements, be specific. For example, click the login button instead of saying go to login. So it gives you advice on writing better test cases that can be automated. If I was to just go ahead and say, you know what, I'm just going to automate these. I'm going to take these and I'm just going to automate them. I can batch automate, so I can automate all those at the same time. However, it gives me advice and it says that, okay, one of them wasn't analyzed. So you've got one test case that we don't know if it's easy or not. And then 3 of the other ones are actually show a high unlikeliness of conversion. So in that case, what you should do is go and analyze them or go and fix them. Again, not wasting your credits, not wasting your time. Because if I click this and let them automate, it'll go off and might take a while, and then I'll have to come back and realize it wasn't successful. So it gives you a higher degree of success in your automation by giving you that advice. And that's it. Lastly, I'm going to try one that has been automated to show you, just to keep me honest. If you want to export the auto test, I think maybe we'll try this. This might take. Yeah, so that's the JavaScript one. Works second time. So that again is me exporting the auto test that I've generated the automated test from a manual, just to re-emphasize, and now I'm outputting the actual playwright code that I can copy here, download, and execute that in my CI/CD. And that is essentially allowing you to go from manual testing, or sorry, from requirement, not manual testing, from a requirement all the way through in an automated test in, whatever this demo's taking 10, 15 minutes. That is essentially what we're doing in AIDEN, what we have done with AIDEN. And I'll talk a little bit more about what we're doing in the future. So I hope that covers, I hope that excites you or impresses you. And I hope, and I'll talk about how everybody can try it out in a moment. So that's AIDEN. So what are we doing? What's coming soon? So we're working on specific improvements to Copilot and agentic modes. So what the Copilot mode is, I focus a lot on automation, but like majority of CDR customers are manual, and manual testing is really, really important. So what we're doing is we're adding capabilities in our Copilot to allow for better manual testing. Okay, so assisting users to write optimal manual tests, right? So things like, if you've left out proper expected results or acceptance criteria, if you haven't entered specific, say, for instance, URLs. So you've click on the projects tab, right? That's fine for you because you know the product, but what if somebody else takes up that test case and has no idea where the project tab is? So it'll tell you, have a path of navigation, for instance. It will assist users in identifying duplicate steps or parameters when writing the manual test case. So we have a thing called shared steps. If anyone uses Qase, it's a highly used feature, and it allows you to have where there's a common step in test cases, you just create it once and you share it with those test cases. So you only need to update it once and it propagates, that change propagates. Same with, we've recently introduced global share parameters. So an example I use is that if you've got lots of mobile tests and Apple come out with a new iOS, and you've got to go to all your mobile tests and add a parameter for testing on iOS 29, that's a pain. But with global share parameters, you just have to add it in one place and it propagates to all the steps. So what we're adding is our capability that when you're writing a test case, if there's similar test case steps, or if a shared step exists that is similar to the step you're writing, it will say, why not use a shared step instead? So that type of assistance to help you improve how you write. Now, we're also allowing people to use natural language to write automated tests from scratch. So in agentic mode, you can turn around and say, go and purchase me the Lego Star Wars XYZ kit on Amazon and use this credit card. details, and the agent will go off and do that for you. So you don't have to write individual steps like click on Amazon.com and go to this basket and go to, it will actually interpret your requirement and just write the step for you. That's what we're doing in our agentic mode. That's coming soon. So there's things like Copilot allows you to, as you see those steps being created, allows you to chat with it. And so insert in step 5, insert this username, and remove step 5. So it allows you to kind of have a conversation with AIDEN as it's converting the test cases. So that's what our Copilot is. We're going to introduce AIDEN Test Excellence. So this is where we get really deep into like a test ops. You're not just if your tests are failing or passing, but actually how are they performing? Which test cases are taking the longest? Why are they taking the longest? Why are your test cases flaky? Identifying potential flaky test cases, looking at failure trends, that deep granular analytics and observability that you need to kind of really, really improve your quality assurance practice. So helping you to debug and improve the test efficiency. And then with Test Advisor, what we're doing, and this is coming very soon and very close, is that not just identifying what's easy, but again, for manual testers, you might, or just for repository hygiene, it will identify where test cases are duplicates. So if you have lots of duplicate test cases, it will identify them. It'll identify redundant tests that are no longer valuable or being executed, just for your repository hygiene, okay? It will analyze your entire repository, and again, going back to shared steps or shared parameters, where there are steps in multiple test cases that are identical or similar, it will actually create a shared step for you. So it means that now you only have to update it once to update all of those test cases if required. So again, helping you with your maintenance, helping you with your repository hygiene, and just making your lives easier and helping you to ship software faster, which is essentially what we want to do. So this is what we had, and this is what I'm excited about talking to you today about, is that we originally had a startup. These are our startup plans. We had an AIDEN credits. We had 500 AIDEN credits per month, 1,000 on business, 2,000 on enterprise. However, what we are doing from today. So I just want to give you context. When we started out with AIDEN, that's what we call the evolution of it. When we started out with AIDEN, and we did all our laboratory testing on our accuracy. So our accuracy was one of the metrics we had, is how many test cases in a repository can we convert successfully from manual to automated. And we were doing laboratory tests and we were getting really high numbers, and our odds were brilliant and our model were great. And then the real world happened, and we had all sorts of people writing weird test cases and crazy test cases. And our accuracy, the amount of test cases we could successfully convert, dropped. And we spent a lot of time improving our models, really fine-tuning, engineering our models to make sure we're covering all test cases. And now we're at a really efficient accuracy of around 80% of between 60 to 80% of a repository, I should say, can be automated. As well as that, we've made massive improvements in the token consumption, the credit consumption that we do to generate. So at the start, when we're generating a test case, we're using lots of credits. Now, particularly over the last couple of weeks in which we're releasing now, is we've actually reduced that credit consumption. So what we're doing tomorrow is we're going to double the amount of credits that on each plan. And what you're going to see, not only are you going to say, I'm going to do twice as many conversions as I previously did for free, right, included in your plan. Actually, you're going to see way more. You're going to see exponentially more, because the amount of credits being consumed is much more efficient. So people are going to be able to successfully convert a significant proportion of test cases, or extremely high amount of test cases, I should say, in their repository from tomorrow. So that is really, really exciting for anybody who has a plan already. However, also our trials previously had, has about 100 credits. So it can take, you can try it and you can maybe convert a few test cases. So for everybody, for putting up with me and listening to me for the last 30 minutes, everyone on this call, if you log in tomorrow, we'll have we're going to increase your trial credits as well. So you'll have 500 credits on your trial to play around with. So so that's really a good incentive, I suppose, for coming on today, and thanks for putting up with me. Okay, and then you can also again, when you run out of credits, you can purchase extra credits, as always. So I just want to reiterate the work that we've done, how excited we are about AIDEN. I just really want to show you how easy it is to convert. I hope I'll convince you all that it is that easy to do this. We go from manual testing to lightning fast automation. It boosts your test coverage, because we talk about that. You can get all these different cases, you can get all these different variables and alternate cases, and you can convert them. You can save them to your repository and then convert them. It helps you with your coverage because it's so easy to go from manual to automation. It's effortless. It helps even for automation engineers who are working out there on the complex ones. Test Advisor tells you which ones are easy to convert. Go and convert them, and then it allows you to focus more on writing complex test cases that you can do better probably than any AI. Okay, so it'll enable you take a lot of that, what we call, those test cases that are compounding, takes them away from you, allows them to convert them easily while you can concentrate on the more complex work. It allows you to design, run, manage, execute tests. It's all in one. It's clear ROI. You can see it so easily how quickly you can go to automation and reduces costs. So I hope all of these things will convince you to at least try AIDEN out, give it a go, give us some feedback. That's how we make it better. And I think that's it for me. So I'll leave. We wanted to leave about 20 to 15 minutes for Q&A. I see there's a lot of questions coming in that we're happy to answer, and I think Ilya, I think you've been curating there and you can help us. So thank you again for your time. I appreciate, some of you in mornings, some of you in the evenings, some of you middle of the day. We really appreciate you taking the time to listen to us. And again, happy to answer any questions. So thank you.
Thank you, Glenn. Thank you, Nikita. Yeah, indeed, we do have quite a lot of questions, and let's address. I'm not sure if we are going to be able to address all of them, but we're going to try to do as much as possible. Obviously, there is a big section of questions, or there is a pretty significant number of questions from folks asking, can we do API testing? Can we do mobile testing? Are desktop applications supported for this approach with AIDEN? So Glenn, if you could expand a bit on that and elaborate on what the vision is for the future, where we are today.
The easiest one to answer is mobile testing. We don't currently, but very, very soon we will be supporting mobile testing very soon. So Nikita is nodding there. And Nikita can probably elaborate even more where we are with that, and also on the native and the API testing. Nikita?
Yeah. Thanks, Glenn. So right now we are doing proof of concepts with Android. That will come first. Then we are going to add iOS. So yes, that will be native mobile testing. So the same way.
Okay.
All right. There were also a few questions that folks are interested in. What's the model that we're using under the hood for AIDEN?
Yeah, AIDEN. Yeah, let me answer that question.
Yeah.
AIDEN,
go ahead.
Yeah, is a pretty complex thing. So that's in fact not one agent, and each agent. So we have test designer, test automation engineer, and test automation engineer who automates tests is another set of agents under the hood, and it uses primarily OpenAI models, different models, and big models with reasoning, small models for different things. So primarily, yes, OpenAI.
Thank you, Nikita.
Yeah, there was a question about GitHub connection, and if the data is used to train models. No. So I want to say, so your data is not used to train any models. Don't worry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's and you know, I think, I don't know if someone's asked, like, you know, if we're supporting RAG or MCP, even we always develop with the kind of privacy first approach. So you'll always be in control. So if you opt in to use RAG, like when we enable RAG, so we can consume your documents to give you more kind of context about your application. So you know, you get even quicker automation and more accurate automation. That will always be an option that you opt in for. But by default, we don't utilize any of your data or take any of your data, and we never will. That's our privacy first approach.
Yeah, and I just want to add a couple of things here. So our main idea is to build a team of virtual people, agents that will help you to do much more using their capabilities. And right now you can think of them as people who have different skills. Test designer can do those. Test automation engineer can automate those things. And every week we are adding new capabilities, new skills to those agents. And there were questions about, can this review and improve existing tests? Yes, that's what we want, to have full control of your test model to help you keep it up to date with your product. Right now, it can generate, it can based on the context you have, but then it will be able to manage, review, improve existing tests, mark something as deprecated that were never executed, and etc., etc.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, folks. I'll probably pick out another question. There have been actually a couple of mentions of this, but folks are wondering if AIDEN works with the page object model. How does it use the objects on the web page? Are they used for writing the tests? And it just appears that the test might be isolated from other tests at the moment. How is that implemented? Again, Glenn, if you could expand on that a bit.
I'm not sure if you say the isolated part. Do you mean, is there context from other?
Yep, pretty much
Yeah.
so.
So we do have we have, and again, this is going to the evolution of AIDEN in the last while. Originally, they were kind of, every test was isolated, so the model would take a test and execute, and then there was no kind of context for the next test. So we've actually, I've and up to very recently, you had to execute a single test at a time. Okay, so you could go into each manual test, click on convert or automate, then you could come back out and click on convert or automate, but they didn't know about each other. Now we've implemented batch processing, and we do provide context. So for instance, you know, if you take them and if you take a bunch of tests, like a batch amount, and you like choose environment login, it keeps that context all the time for each test, and it learns it. So it's actually increased the speed. So we have a kind of internal kind of RAG we use just on the model that provides the context from each test case to improve the speed and improve the performance. So we are making a lot of improvements around that area to make them less independent. On the page object model, I'm not sure if I answered that, or is that's essentially how we find the objects in the DOM, like selectors and that, or I'm trying to understand that question. I don't know if whoever answers that wants to add a bit of context.
Yeah, folks, if you would like to add some context in the chat, please be welcome to. For now, we are going to move on to the next question. There is a good one coming from Rory and Glen, I guess, and Nikita. If you would like to address this, what sets Qase and AIDEN apart from the variety of other companies currently using and promoting AI for test case generation?
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah, I want to cover that. Sorry.
Yeah, both of us want to cover that, but
yeah. The main difference on AIDEN is not only test case generation like many others do, and the main difference between AIDEN and other solutions on the market, we are not feature centric. So we are not doing not covering some features with AI capabilities. We are thinking in terms of role-centric. What agent can do, how it can help you to do your work more efficiently so you can achieve more in less time. So that's how test designer, test analyst, test automation engineer were born. Because we want to make those roles more efficient. And we teach those agents different skills to improve your performance.
Yeah, and to add to that, like if almost, and even to now, the majority of AI test tools that I've seen, and particularly in startups coming up, are to Nikita's point about test generation. So creating a test case. So there's many models people use around that. There's like really good screen recording type of functionality and click capture functionality and chat interfaces where it goes click on X and that will generate a test for you. And a lot of them are good. They're good. But we have we have like over 2,000 customers now who predominantly write manual tests. And there's a lot of people who write manual tests, right? And they've got an existing repository of manual tests. So they're not starting from scratch and brand new and creating test cases. They've actually got products sitting there that they test and need to test. So what AIDEN allows you to do is to convert those to automated tests, massively reducing the amount of time you have to spend on your regression and retesting everything by transitioning you to automation. And that's what we do, and we do really well. And our accuracy levels, as I say, it's our metric that we look at every day. Our dashboard is like, how accurate are we at doing this? How good are we at doing this? And how do we improve that? And that's where we're kind of going to. So I hope that kind of helps with answering why we believe we're better, certainly, or differentiated from others. I'd see that clarification on the page. I think that's using the login function is covered. Yeah. So basically, yes, you can reuse login functionalities on your tests by setting up in the environment. And at the moment, so when you add login functionality, you'll see it creates that login steps at the beginning of the test case. And as we're improving the model, if you've already logged in, it reuses that session to execute subsequent tests in that environment. At the moment, it'll keep on logging you back in, but you can reuse your credentials for executing tests. Yes, one area, and you can update them, etc., if needed.
Thank you, Glenn. Another question I think it's absolutely worth bringing up is, do you have some ROI calculations to share with the C-level to discuss where we stand with that? What can we deliver and how it is going to help teams spend their budgets more efficiently?
Yeah, the answer, the short answer is yes, you do. It's at the moment it's a kind of an internal tool that our sales. It depends. So we need to kind of consult in how you operate first and that. So we have a calculator that looks at like how much manual tests you have, size of your repository, what's your automation and how kind of mature you are in the automations space, size your application, things like that. There's variables that you can plug into it and it gives you a calculator about how much you can save. So if you're interested in an ROI calculation, reach out to us and we're happy to have that conversation with you. A lot of people put them on their websites and they're a bit gimmicky, if I'm honest. So we didn't want to do that. We kind of like to consult and really get into like what's your actual expenditure and what's your actual cost, and then we'll look at it to see if there's an ROI there, which essentially there effectively almost always is.
I wanted to quickly answer the question from Stephanie because it could be fair for many folks that have that question in mind. But if you already have a Qase account, how can you get trial AIDEN credits? So folks, if you already have a paid subscription with Qase, you already get monthly credits given to you every month that you can consume, that you can use. You don't have to buy them as an extra. They are included. If you do have a free subscription though, you can start a trial there is a button shown to you that allows you to start a business trial, which is going to be available for 14 days. And it also gives you access to some amount of AIDEN credits. If, however, you have used the trial before and no longer can start a trial, feel free to drop into our support team's chat, request that trial extension. We can absolutely do that for you. If you want to give another try to the functionality, we can just restart that trial for you and you will have those 2 weeks and the number of credits to test it out properly together with your teammates. There was another question that I wanted to mention here. I guess it's fair to voice that out. A question from Raj. What cloud infrastructure do you run on? I'd like to understand potential outage risks like those seen recently with Azure or AWS.
Yeah, so I can answer that question. So we are using AWS, but we are using US East too. So the main outages usually happen to US East 1, as that's the most progressive. In fact, that's staging environment for AWS that they send, and the most outages can be found on that data center. So we haven't been affected even once with AWS outage, the whole history.
Mm-hmm. And we've failover built in as well.
So. Yeah.
I saw one, does AIDEN help with debugging your failure? It does, and I think I can probably show you that. If I were to go to a test run very quickly. So that was I basically intentionally had a fail test in there. So we see, remember I talked about like how long it took to execute a manual test. So you'll see here, it gives you our results, give you all the steps. It gives you the actual results in a screenshot, etc. of what happened. It tells you how long, so that took 13 seconds. But in the failed one, you'll see here. So gives you the error, allows you to help you with debugging, gives you a screenshot of what happened, etc. So it does give you that feedback on what has failed and what has worked. And that's all again within Qase in the test runs. That was the one, the run I executed earlier.
Yeah, I want to cover a few things about code organization and explain a little bit how it works. So when we generate automated tests, we don't write code immediately. That was our initial approach when we have started, and that didn't work really well. And that's what I see in many other solutions on the market as well, because it's very hard to repeat, to get the same result with LLM on scale. So every time you get a new test, a new steps, a different approach. So we have changed that. We don't write code. So we generate internal instructions, internal structures, and make it. And then we are trying to make it work. And once we have finished, once we have automated everything, we have executed, we can generate code based on those instructions. That's the main difference. Many solutions, so we've tried that didn't work out. That was really unstable. So we generate code right after we have built a fully working test. That's why, yes, that's true. It's kind of isolated from other tests, but it works and it's pretty stable. So yes, we are looking for ways to implement page object model and to integrate with existing code base, so it can write not only so you will be able to save it in your GitHub repo. for example. But that's, yes, probably for 2026. When we have started, so yeah, we were thinking, hey, that should be an easy journey. But no, you all know that.
I just
All
saw.
right, and I know. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Glenn.
Yeah, I saw one question there from Andrea, who said she used the tool and it was a lot of errors and she had to fix a step, and when you run again it used the credits. I would suggest that if you try it now, you will see the improvements we've made around the accuracy and steps. So it should certainly fail less and consume a lot less credits as you do that. Again, we've given you more credits and actually made the model more efficient to consume less credits. So you should see a big improvement if you give it a go again.
Yeah, from my estimations, that's not a legal statement, but you'll be able to generate up to 10 times more tests from tomorrow. Yeah, that depends on the complexity of your tests, the number of steps. So every test is different. But in general, on average, our customers, should be able to generate up to 10x more tests.
And folks, we are at about time, so we don't really want to hold you further. Thank you very much for the time of your day that you've given us to visit today's webinar, to watch our presentation, to listen in to us speaking about the news, the releases, the changes. A lot more exciting things are coming, obviously. Thank you very much for the praise you're giving to our team in the chat. Really, really appreciate it. And we're at your service. We're going to continue making Qase better with every month, every release, every new feature, every improvement. So stay tuned. And we've been glad to have you today with us. Thank you, Glenn. Thank you, Nikita.
Yeah. I have one last thing. Many questions haven't been answered because lots of them. Please feel free to reach us out and we'll cover all of them.
Yeah, 100%. Thanks, folks. Appreciate your time.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.